Are you planning a trip to the ancient and vibrant city of Merida, Mexico? Wondering how to navigate your way here to Merida? Well, no need to stress. In today's video, I'm gonna break down all your travel options for getting to Merida, Mexico, whether by plane, train, bus, or car. But I won't stop there. I'll also guide you through the ins and outs of navigating this magnificent city like a local once you arrive. Be sure to whip out that notepad and pen because this video is gonna save you time, money, and a whole lot of research. Let's get it. What is good, MexitPlanners? One of the most significant hurdles of living in Merida, Mexico has been the sparse travel options available, turning my trips back to Atlanta into a 12-hour marathon door to door. This is all set to change in March of 2024 thanks to Delta introducing new direct flights. This is a game changer, y'all, especially considering the historical scarcity of direct flight options from the States to Merida, Mexico. Historically, the direct international flights to Merida, Mexico were from Dallas or Miami on American Airlines, from Houston on United Airlines, or Toronto on WestJet. But on March 15th, Delta Airlines will offer direct flights from Atlanta to Merida, Mexico, operated by Aeromexico. Prior to these new direct flights on Delta, you would have to go Atlanta to Mexico City and then transfer in Mexico City to Merida. So this is gonna save a tremendous amount of time because typically it took me 12 hours to go door to door from Atlanta to Merida, which was just a long day. Now there are many more cities that offer direct flights to Cancun, which is one of the most popular tourist destinations in Mexico, and only a 3.5-hour car drive from Merida. And many locals will choose to fly to Cancun because of the low-cost options. Mainly there are several low-cost carriers that fly into Cancun like Spirit, Frontier, or Southwest Airlines as an example from the United States. But you'll still need to travel to Merida once you arrive in Cancun. Well, there are 3 options to get from Cancun to Merida. You can drive yourself in a rental car, you can take the Audio bus, or you can take the new Maya train service. Now, all of those require some additional planning. And specifically, if you're planning to rent a car, I highly suggest that you don't rely on your credit card insurance and that you buy the full insurance package from the rental car company. The reason being is if you're in an accident in Mexico, you have to solve that problem at the scene of the accident. And they're not gonna wait for you to figure out if your credit card company is gonna cover the damages or any of those things. You either need to provide cash or have Mexican car insurance and let them figure out what's going on and who was at fault. I know the rental car insurance can be twice as much as the rental or can be as much as the rental price, but it's worth it for the peace of mind and safety when you get here in Mexico. Another option to getting from Cancun to Merida is to take the Audio bus, which is ADO. This is a top of the line bus service. So the Audio has many different types of services. There's even a first class service called the Platino service that has 7 different buses, which has service starting at 7:37 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. and they leave every 2 hours. Now there's also regular bus service, which is like your typical tourist bus with reclining seats. The seats are cloth. There's a big difference between the Platino and the regular bus service, but the regular bus service is very comfortable. And if you just need to get there and do it inexpensively, the regular bus service is definitely the way to go. With the regular bus service, they leave every day from 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. every hour. Now, starting at 6:37 a.m. to 4 p.m., they leave every 30 minutes. So from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., they leave every hour. So there's a good range of buses, and the final bus leaves at 10:30 p.m. at night and arrives the next day because of the time change. So the bus takes about 4 to 4.5 hours to ride normally, with all of the construction being done on 180, which is the main toll road. But the prices range from 483 pesos all the way to 968 pesos for the Platino. But I normally schedule my tickets with the Audio app on my phone. The key thing to know is that there are several stations in Merida that you can leave from or arrive to. Alta Brisa in the north of Merida. If you're going to one of the neighborhoods in the north, like Monte de Ame or San Ramon Norte or Alta Brisa or any of the Montes, Montebello or any of those neighborhoods, Monte Cristo. Then the Audio station at Alta Brisa is probably going to be the closest station to you. Now, there's only probably a 5 to 7 mile difference between Alta Brisa and the Cami station, which is way south in Merida. So it's not that big a deal. It's not super far away, but just know Alta Brisa is the northernmost Audio station in Merida. And that's also where the Platino bus leaves and comes to, is the Alta Brisa station. Now, Paseo 60 is in Centro, closest to Paseo de Montejo. And a lot of folks are coming here as tourists, and they're going to be spending time near Paseo de Montejo. So Paseo 60 is going to be a great station for that. And at Paseo 60, the Platino bus also goes to Paseo 60. All of the other buses, all of the ones that leave every hour or every 30 minutes, they go to the Centro Cami station. It's C-A-M-E. So if you're coming to Merida, the Centro Cami station is going to have your late night options and early morning options to get you back to or from Cancun at a decent time. So keep in mind that there are 3 different stations in Merida, whether it's Alta Brisa, Paseo 60, where the Platino goes, or the Cami station where all the other buses go and leave from. The other thing that you really need to know if you're leaving from Merida going to Cancun is to watch your things when you get to the Cancun Central station. Many people have had their belongings stolen at the Cancun bus station when the bus arrives and they unload the luggage underneath the bus. So watch your things like a hawk at the Cancun Central station, please. The last comment I'll make about the bus is if you're taking the bus from Merida to Cancun, you need to transfer from the Central Cancun bus station to the airport. And that's 120 pesos to get to the airport. Now, it's a separate bus. Those buses leave about every 30 minutes. So that's the Cancun Airport bus. But you also need to pre-buy your tickets or buy your tickets when you arrive at the station. So please allow plenty of time to make this transfer, because sometimes it can take you an hour depending on if you just missed the bus or if the new bus is going. So just make arrangements. Make sure you allow enough time to get from the Cancun Central station to the airport, which is about a 20-minute ride. All right, the third option to get from Cancun to Merida and vice versa is the Maya train. Now, this is the newest option and it's still in its pre-opening phase. I took the Maya train on inauguration day back on December 16th. If you missed that video, check it out. I'll leave a link to it above. But let me just say that if you are planning to take the Maya train, please pre-purchase your tickets and plan to go the day before or come in the day after. Let me explain. So there are 2 trains that leave from Cancun to Merida each day and vice versa. The trains leave Cancun at 7 a.m. or at 9 a.m. That's it, those 2 trains. Or you can get from the Cancun Airport to the Maya train station via a shuttle. Now that shuttle only runs twice a day right before the Maya train leaves. So if you have tickets for the 7 a.m. Maya train and you're at the Cancun Airport, you need to arrive super early in order to get from the terminal to the Maya train bus station. And it takes about 30 to 45 minutes to circulate from Terminal 4 all the way over to the Maya train. So make sure you allow plenty of time. I highly recommend that if you're taking the Maya train from Cancun to Merida, that you plan accordingly and either plan to leave the next day, stay at a local hotel in Cancun and plan to catch the Maya train the next day, because the scheduling right now is 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. Now, if you're leaving from Merida going to Cancun, your options are to leave at 3:28 p.m. or 5:30 p.m. That's it. Those are the 2 options. The total duration for the trip when it's running on schedule is 4 hours approximately. So it takes about 4 hours to ride the Maya train. It's 3.5 hours to drive or 4 and some change to take the bus over to Cancun. So this isn't the fastest option, but it's probably the most comfortable option because you can get up and move around. They have great bathrooms. Again, check out the video I did on inauguration day. It is a very, very comfortable experience, but it's also more expensive. So the tickets on the Maya train are 977 pesos to go from Cancun to Merida in tourist class or 1,564 pesos in premier class. This train is still in pre-opening, but if you're taking the train, plan accordingly to either go the day before and make sure you pre-purchase your tickets, because more than likely you will not have time to buy your tickets the same day. The official Train Maya site is train, T-R-E-N, Maya, MAYA.gov.mx. That is the official site. It has the updated schedules. The schedules are changing all the time. The service is not reliable. If you have travel plans and you want to make a flight, audio or driving is going to be your best option right now. Now that you've arrived at the Merida train station by the Maya train, you still need to get into the city of Merida because the Merida train station is actually 7.8 miles outside of the city in Taya at Hacienda Taya. All right, so in order to get from the Merida Maya train station at Taya into the city of Merida, there are a couple of options. One is you can take the EA tram from the Maya train station in Merida into the city, which goes to Parque La Plancha or Paseo 60. We talked about Paseo 60, which is where the audio buses also go. So that is an option, the EA tram. The EA tram costs 45 pesos for tourists or 14 pesos, which is the general price if you already have a Ven transport card. In order to have the Ven card is 25 pesos and you can purchase at any of the automatic cajeras, which they have one at the La Plancha site. The other option you have is to take a rideshare app or taxi. And just to give you an idea, ride sharing from way out at Taya into the city of Merida will cost you about 259 pesos. When I was making this video, I pulled it up and that's what I got. I got a fee of 259 pesos. So it's considerably more expensive to take a ride share, but if you miss the scheduled time for the EA tram, ride sharing may be your only option, or ride sharing or taxi may be your only option, but it's going to be significantly more expensive than the public transport. Now, the tram for the Maya train station is a direct route to the La Plancha Park or to Paseo 60. It goes to both places. It goes to La Plancha first and then it goes to Paseo 60. Holy guacamole, you've now made it into the city of Merida either by plane, train, or bus. Once you're in the city, you still need to get to your hotel or Airbnb. Now let's switch to getting around Merida. So once you're here, either at La Plancha or Paseo 60 or Alta Brisa or wherever it is you may have arrived, or even at the airport, there are several options. The easiest option are taxi services. The taxis are everywhere in Merida. They're very economical and they're fair. They're not like in Cancun and other places where they just literally try to take as much money from you as possible. The one recommendation I will give you about taking a local taxi is ask what the price will be to your destination before you begin your trip. So before you actually commit to the taxi and get in the car and load all your stuff, determine what the price is going to be beforehand. The other option is just to use popular ride sharing apps like Uber. And here in Mexico, we also have two other options, Didi and another one called InDriver. I don't recommend InDriver because it doesn't have the same security and background checks that Didi and Uber has. So I routinely use Didi. Didi is the Chinese counterpart to Uber, but they have the same security measures. You can take ride sharing apps anywhere in Merida except from the airport. If you fly directly into Merida, you need to take either a taxi or one of the shuttle services at the airport, or you have to take a 1 mile walk to catch a ride share outside of the federal airport zone. I'll either leave a link to that video above or in the description notes below so that you can see exactly what you have to do to take a ride share. I do it all the time from the airport. You just can't do it at the terminal. You have to take that walk. So it's a 5 to 6 minute walk. It's super easy. It's not a big deal, but unless you know what to do, it can be a bit confusing. Now, ride shares are permitted to drop you off at the airport, and I routinely schedule ride shares whenever I have an early morning flight or, I'm just going to the airport. I'll be gone for a long time, so I don't have to pay for parking. You can get dropped off at the terminal by a ride share. You just can't take a ride share from the terminal to your destination or Airbnb. There's also a Ven direct bus that goes from Paseo 60 to the airport. So that's another option for you. And I'm not really sure the price. It's probably 14 pesos, but that's another option from getting to and from the airport is to just take the Ven bus, which drops you off pretty much in the middle of town. All right, if you're still with me, you're here in Merida, you're flourishing, you've heard me mention the Ven bus system. Now, there are two bus systems in Merida. There's the old antiquated buses that have been around forever. You can tell just by the way these buses look. They're beat down, they're dirty, and they don't have air conditioning in many cases. Now, these older buses are slowly being replaced by this new system called the Ven, which started about 2 years ago. It started on the perimeter, circulating around the city to make it easier for people coming from the outside of the city to get to different points around the city. Before, you had to go all the way into Central and then transfer back to your points out, which was just super inefficient. Now the Ven system is the new bus system, and these buses are incredible. They look like any modern bus that you've seen in any major city in the United States. They are state of the art, they're brand new, they have accessible seating, they have bike racks on the front. I mean, and they all have air conditioning, which is probably the biggest plus. To ride the Ven, you need an electric card like this. And you can get these cards at automatic machines, or you can get the card at an OXXO, which is the #1 convenience store in Mexico, pretty much in every neighborhood. Now, the Ven system doesn't take cash, so you definitely need this card in order to ride the system. However, the system also has an app which shows you the closest stops and all of the routes available to the system. One of the biggest problems with the old bus system is that you had to know the neighborhoods in which the bus was traveling to, and you needed to know the streets. So for instance, for me to get home, I would take the bus that said casinos, right? It just had casinos written in the window. And if you didn't know what casinos they were talking about, or the route, the fact that those two casinos are on the route to city center, you might not catch the right bus. And it took me over 2 years to figure out how to ride that old system. You could use the Move It app, but it wasn't super reliable. So what I recommend is that you download the Ven app and use that to figure out the closest stop. There are also new metropolitan routes on the Ven system. So what they're starting to do is replace some of those older bus routes with Ven routes. And those routes are going to be, with air conditioning. They're going to have the bus that they're going to be working with the app. So, when the bus is supposed to come, how close it is, how close you are to the next stop, things of that nature. The Ven system is much improved and it's growing. They're actually building out substations and just opened the first one last week for the Ven system at the perimeter of the city. So places like Cancun and Uman and other places will be able to come in and just transfer back out from those substations that are going to be major stations for the Ven. So it's a huge improvement, and it's definitely the way that this system's going. Now, the major thing with the Ven is the EA Tram, and the EA Tram currently has 2 routes. The route that I told you about earlier from the Maya train station into the city and back to the Maya train station at Parque La Plancha and also Paseo 60. There's also the first intercity route, which goes to Cancun. Cancun is a big suburb just outside the periferico of Merida. I recently took both routes to the Maya train station and to Cancun just to experience what it was like to ride this portion of the Ven. So what about last mile transportation options in Merida? Well, several other options for transportation in Merida will be the Bici bike share system, which if you missed that video, I did a little short video of me taking the Bici for the first time. I've now taken it 3 times in total, and it's actually pretty convenient. One of the things that I found super convenient when I was scouting this information about the EA Tram was I was able to take the Bici system from the La Plancha site over to near my house. I actually took it to Manifesto Coffee that day and then drove the bike back over to one of the stations. Now with the Bici system, it's operated by an app. So it's a bike share system inside the city of Merida and mostly along the main corridors. For me, the closest Bici station is on Prolongation Montejo by Carl's Jr., which is several blocks, probably still another mile away from my house. But hopefully they'll continue to expand these stations, and it's a pretty slick system. It works via GPS and also via credit card. So you basically sign up for the app, you find a bike and you unlock that bike via the app. And so you have to return it to an Bici station. And again, the stations aren't all over, but it is a pretty convenient way to just jump on a bike and get to, where you're going faster than walking. Now, Merida is a very walkable city. To give you some idea, if you're walking from city center, which is at the far north part of the perimeter, all the way down to the Zocalo, which is the Plaza Grande, or the actual literal center of the state of Yucatan, it's only 5.6 miles. I routinely run from my house, which is about 1.5 miles from city center, down to Parque La Plancha, which is near the Grand Plaza or the Zocalo, and it's only about 3.5 miles. So it's not a very big city, although it seems to be very big, but you're talking, less than 7 miles from the perimeter to the center of the city in most cases. The city is super flat and it's very walkable. However, word of caution, if you're new to Merida, watch out for the sidewalks. If you have a stroller and you're going to Centro, it's going to be very difficult to push that stroller. There's like 54 miles of dedicated bike lanes throughout the city. So I prefer to run in those bike lanes or walk in those bike lanes. The easiest walking areas in Merida are going to be on Paseo Montejo over to the gastronomic district, because they've purposely made those pedestrian friendly and those sidewalks are basically wide and flat. Now on Paseo Montejo, be very careful because the tiles are not exactly level. So there are areas that are going to be a little higher than others and they raise up and things of that nature. I've seen many ladies fall in heels on that street at night. I hope this video has been super helpful. Leave me comments below and let me know which transportation options you use to go to and from Merida, and which transportation options such as the Maya train or the EA tram that you're most excited about in learning how to use. Until next time, MexitPlans Monty, move!